Howdy gang. Let's put that device away. I got theoretically a petcock rebuild kit for this petcock. It's in the house. Probably should have brought that out here. But anyway, we're going to open this up, take a look at it, see how bad it is, see if it's even functional. I haven't even really checked to see if it's functional. Maybe we'll do that before we even take it apart. Pour some mineral spirits in here. Because if you remember, if you watched the last video, the first video, the other video about this bike, this tank has some varnish. It's not that bad. I've seen a lot worse. I believe that it was maybe run out of fuel before it was put away, and there just may have been some residual because of the way that it was leaning. So there's a chance this might actually function. I don't know how dry the gaskets are or anything like that, but we'll see if we can get this fuel tank to hold fuel, and probably going to run through those carburetors again, see if I missed something, see if we can get that leak, just the fuel flow to stop. It was acting like the float was stuck even though we just went through them. I may have put something together wrong. Like I said, I'm not going to film it. I'll just pull them off and go through them real quick. If I need to, I have found, I believe, rebuild kits. There's also some Amazon carbs that are the same size that are knockoff Mikunis. I could get a pair of them for 60 bucks or something. They're not exactly the same setup. I'm pretty confident I can get these carbs to work fine, but I just did some research and saw that. So anyhow, let's get to it. Now, get this old fuel line off for sure. This blade's dull. I probably, this is already, yeah. You use both sides? I don't think I have used the other side of this one yet. If you don't have one of these, get one. It's the Milwaukee, I don't remember the number, but it's got the bit holder in the end. So you've got screwdriver, flathead, and Phillips head. The only knife, it's also got a bottle opener and all that crap. It's actually got blade storage for extra blades too. But the only knife I've had that was more handy than this was, I don't remember the brand name of it. I'll have to go find it. I think I know where it is. But it was an actual pocket knife. And it had a thing on the side here that popped out and held 2 bits and had a bit holder. It may have had bit holder or holders on both sides. I'll have to grab it in a minute. But that one was super handy. Once you remember that your knife, everyday carry knife, has a screwdriver bit on it, you really start to use it more than you ever think you would have. Now, I don't know what these are. I need to look into this, see if I can find a service manual. I may already have one. But these, if I didn't say it on the video, from the inside, they're soldered shut, it looked like, or brazed or whatever. So I don't know what these are supposed to be for. But anywho, yeah, I mean, let's just put some mineral spirits in here. I need to put some in there anyway. And grab some sort of a bin to catch anything that comes out. We'll use the container we did the carburetor with. I need to rinse that out anyway. Ouch. All right, coming back. Be here in just a moment. Oh, I can't go there this way. Got all my tools in the way. Not all my tools, but some tools in the way. All right, so my thought process is we got on. Oh yeah, we gotta take it apart. Well, it freed up, but I'm pretty sure that any rubber gasket that was in there just shredded. But we got reserve, on, and stop. And theoretically that would be reserve, that would be on, and that would be stop. Let's see what happens. Other than making a big mess, hang on just a second. I'm going to grab a transference device module later. This is like, for instance, a glass jar. So here we are. This is not moonshine. Do not drink it. Eye protection and gloves, people. Sorry. Really should be better about that. So, basically, we want the fuel to go to that corner. Let's see what happens. Okay, well, first thing we discovered is at least one of those lines is not closed. So that's interesting. The petcock, however, seems to be working. Alright, well, I'm just going to set this up so that it soaks the bad part. And it's probably dumping mineral spirits out? No? Okay. It's really not that bad. But, so I would be willing to bet, looking at the shape of this tank, whew, yeah, okay, I think it was an illusion that it looked like it was filled, but looking at the shape of this tank, there's a tunnel all the way through it. So what those lines are is a crossover pipe, so that the fuel can go to both sides. So I just need a piece of hose to fix that. That's easy. And I also do need to clean them out, or else I'll only have fuel on one side of my tank. So I did cheat and find a wrench earlier. It's a 17 millimeter. Oh, that hurt. Let's spray that with PB Blaster. That's a pretty old can of PB Blaster too, huh? I have discovered my last 2 cans of PB Blaster didn't spray. And I found that in Dad's garage on the shelf. It's probably 20 or 30 years old. And it seems to work just fine. ready for this. Bloop. Varnish. Varnish. You've heard me speak of it. I'm sure if you're watching my channel, you've heard others speak of it. If you haven't ever dealt with it, that's what we speak of. Old gas turns into a sticky, gummy mess. Anyhow, let's put on some eye protection. How about that? Just for the sake of whoever. If you can regulate the pressure that you're spraying with, you can kind of just fill it up and let it soak instead of just spraying. See that? I don't know if you can see it. I know I can't because of these stupid eye protection things. So we have a screen right there. And like I said the other day, I figured there was 2 screws. There's a third screw, it looks like, that takes the screen off also. So let's get at it and try not to destroy this tank that's not yet destroyed. Yeah, that'll do. Don't like this, but alright, I got it actually. That was still pretty tight, but I've had a lot of experiences stripping things out, and depending on what you strip out is, it can make your life totally miserable having to fix that issue. So I try to prevent that from occurring. Anyhow, double checking to make sure you're still on. Is this thing on? So now we've got our, that's why we weren't getting any fuel, huh? That's a screen and it's completely gooped. Okay, well, there's mineral spirits all over everything now. It'll be alright, but that's kind of sucks. I'm pretty sure there's probably a glare on that. Huge glare. But you can see that. That's the kit we got, which looks like a pretty much generic kit for a different type of petcock. So I'm going to not open this yet, and we're going to get a little bit further into this. I'm going to put on some gloves actually. Anyhow, getting back into it. You are recording, right? Yep. What are you looking at? Pretty much that area. So, sorry about the old school impact. That didn't really work the way I wanted it to. Grab a smaller screwdriver. Again, that's another important thing to not destroying your stuff, is to use the right tools. There are several different sizes of Phillips head screwdriver to match with the different size screws. If you use the correct one, you have less of a chance of stripping the screw out. Sorry guys, sometimes I forget you're there even though I'm talking to you. Try and stay out of the light. Maybe, we'll see. One good thing about the camera is I'm recording how it comes apart. So that's a little spring washer that keeps it from just flopping around in there and actually detents it at different positions. There is some mineral spirits at the bottom of this tray, by the way. So inside of that, inside of there is a little channel that is actually what takes the fuel and transfers it to the other end of wherever that position is, if that made any sense. So all the crap that's in there needs to get cleaned out. And like I said, I mean, I'm going to get the correct rebuild kit if this one doesn't work. But before I open it, I'm going to see what all these parts look like. Which, you know, considering I brought all these tools over here, I guess I've got a pick. Now, if these are parts you're replacing, you don't have to be as careful, but if you're not planning on replacing, be very careful using these picks because they will poke holes in things and rip screens and poke you in the hand, all kinds of stuff. So I like to at least make an effort to be somewhat careful when the pointy end is involved especially. And then once I don't need it, I get it out of the way. Alright. So there are four holes in that gasket like on the other one. They're very misshapen. We'll just set that aside. I may have to get a manual. A manual. These screws are the same size. Be mindful of the size of your screws if you have more than one in something that you take apart. Because if they are not the same size, you have to pay attention to where they go, or you could really screw some things up. Let's get this screen out. See what's going on in there, other than lots of stuff. Woo-hoo-hoo! Remember what I was saying last time about little pieces? It went to the bowl, but be very careful. The little pieces will fly away. Okay, this is a brass, I assume, screen, and it does not come in the rebuild or any of the rebuild kits that I saw. So we're just going to kind of knock that out, and it's already got a small hole in it. I hope I didn't just do that, but it's possible. So it is what it is. But we need to clean that screen. I don't know if you can tell, but it's dirty. So we'll put it in there and let it soak. And again, there's all kinds of residual crap in there if you can't. I don't know what you can see and what you can't see. Anyway, there's a bunch of little residual crap in there. So as we clean these parts, we need to put them into something cleaner. This is the diamond-shaped O-ring that I was concerned about. I believe what their plan is the smaller O-ring that's in there, maybe they think is gonna take that shape. See if we can first get this one out without poking myself or shredding it into a million pieces, which is likely to happen. Alright, so there's that channel. There's all kinds of varnish where it's been leaking through there and around there. Like I said, that's supposed to be a screen. So that's going to need to soak. Get the old straw out. And like the carburetor, again, eye protection. My reading glasses are eye protection. They're not really impact proof. Anyway, basically what I'm doing is I'm backfilling. That is where the fuel would be coming out from. And it would be going in from the tank into these two. That being your main and this being your reserve. As you see, it's a lower section, so when it's in the tank, it's at the lower level of fuel. Once you switch over to your reserve, you've only got that much fuel left before you run out. So if you switch from your main to your reserve, you better be heading to a gas station. For those of you who did not realize that. Motorcycles, well, not all, but many have a reserve. Many have a fuel tank. I mean, a gas-powered motorcycles all have a fuel tank. But many of them have a fuel gauge, is what I meant to say. Watch your eyes. Yeah. I don't know what we're going to do about that screen. So these things are very, very fragile. I mean, I wasn't really messing with it that much, and it started to crush. So, you know, just in trying to brush off some of this stuff and loosen it up, I did not rip it, thankfully, but... Sorry, taking the gloves off. At least one of them. I didn't like that feeling. Again, I'm not trying to be super aggressive, but I'm going to try and kind of give it a little brushy with some carb juice. Once again, kind of a matter of patience. You don't want to do this too aggressively, especially with these fine screens, because you'll destroy them. Oh, well, so much for the glove thing. I tried. Oh, that's a lot better than it was. I didn't see that, but... Okie dokie. Let me get a rag real quick. So yes, there is definitely a tear in this. There's a couple tears in this. They're not... I mean, it's not ruined, but it's not good. Coming up next is the bowl. And like I said with the carburetor, if I can get a brush in here, we'll kind of brush it. But I'm not trying to stick sandpaper in there or anything like that. We're just trying to knock loose anything that comes loose relatively easily. Take a section of our rag and kind of go over it one more time. Just get some of that residual stuff. Residuals, you know what I'm saying, residuals. All right. basically, what that does is bridges between two positions. So one of these holes is basically closed. One of them is where the fuel comes in. Rather, where the fuel goes out, I should say. One of them is the reserve, and one of them is the primary. And what this basically does is connects that center hole to either that side, or if it's turned the other way, it connects the center hole to the other side. I don't know if you can see that clearly or not, the way I'm doing it. But basically, when I turn this lever the other way, it's going to connect that to that. I know what I'm saying. Maybe that clarified something for someone. Who knows? These screws just definitely had some varnish on them. But again, same thing. We're just going to brush them off. You know, you can use power tools, and if you haven't noticed yet, I'm not really believe me, I use power tools. But I'm not the guy that goes for the power tool first. At risk of repeating myself, it's because I've, seen and or destroyed plenty of things with power tools, or seen other people do it or hurt themselves, and I'd say the overall majority of the time the power tool wasn't even necessary. There is definitely a place and time for power tools. There's also a place and time for just holding something in your hand and watching it while you brush it off and seeing what you're going after come off. Especially once you get older and start wearing readers, because it magnifies everything. Maybe I was able to see that stuff before, I don't remember. Alright, so that is, you take that back, I got 3 tiny little screws. 1. 2 of these hold the whole handle assembled, hold the little handle assembly together, and the other one holds that filter in place. And if they're all the same, they're all the same, but I don't know if they are. We'll figure it out when we go to put it back together. They look very similar. If nothing else, there should be 2 that are rusty and 1 that's not. Alright, I'm going to wash some of these chemicals off of me and regroup. Okay guys, theoretically, this gasket set or seal set is going to work for our application. As I suspected, basically, the smaller round seal is going to theoretically fit down in that channel. Oh, by the way, this is the other knife I was talking about. It's a Kershaw. It's a 1920 STWM. I don't know if they're even available anymore. But like I said, it's got 2-bit holders on either side, which for some reason is all screwed up in here. I haven't used it in a while. I'll show you why. But right now it's got 2 flats and 2 Phillips. One of the reasons I stopped carrying it was that doesn't stay in place anymore. I mean, I could tack it probably, but also I got the other one that I showed you earlier, which I don't have to sharpen. I just changed the blade. So anyway, let's get this thing put back together real quick. The tank is soaking outside, and I actually have some septic tank guys here doing some work out there, so I'm probably going to shut this off in a minute and go play with them. But once we get this together, I'm going to go through those carbs again real quick, and then we'll come back either this evening or tomorrow and try again to get it running off its own fuel system. Because that would be cool. Okay, something like that. Right. And then, like I said earlier, there should be two of these that are, I think they're all identical. So unless I find otherwise, I was going to say there should be two that are rusty and one that's not. I'm pretty confident they're the same. Although I will say that that's the one that's not rusty. So we'll pull that back out. I used it with the screen. I'm putting things together like this. Leave them both a little loose. That way you can line everything up. And again, we just want to snug it up. We don't want to strip these little screws out. Okie dokie. Neat. It sort of works. Sort of. Well, stops it. That's what's really important. Somewhere around there is on. Anyway, we'll figure that out once we get it hooked up. Off is off. That's what's important. Now we're going to take this little guy. I might be able to get it to work. I don't know how long it's going to stay there. I think it's something that you're just going to kind of have to put into place as you put it into place. And we're not quite there yet. First we're going to put our screen back in. That was a terrible noise. I don't know if the camera picked it up. It didn't bother me, but if the camera picked it up, yeah, somebody's going to complain about that. All right. At this point, we're ready for reassembly. Kids, I'll be back. I'm going to go check on them. Well, it's a new day. I had, I think I mentioned it hopefully, but last evening I had septic fuel or I had issues with the septic system. Nothing was backing up or anything like that, just some soft ground where had some groundwater penetration basically that washed out around one of the tanks. And I didn't feel like digging all that out. So, anywho, we're back. Representing Swanee Halloween today because normally I'd be out in the woods right now. But, you know, striving for bigger goals. We'll say that. Next year. And now, back to the show. Basically, I don't even know where we left off in the footage yesterday, but I finished rebuilding the carburetors, and I actually hooked up the fuel lines that we had before and filled them up with fuel just to see if they were leaking again. And I think what happened is either I put it together wrong or something in the way I handled it maybe. One of the floats ended up on the wrong side. So they weren't actually doing what they needed to do. They weren't actually closing the float valve. So the other thing that I did is finished rebuilding the petcock and installed a temporary vinyl, I don't think that's going to last very long, crossover tube. And I guess we're going to put this together and see if I've got any, what is that? Hi! I don't know if y'all can see him. He's a little baby dragonfly, I think. Oh my gosh, he's adorable. Can I move you over here and show these guys? He's a mini baby dragonfly is what he looks like. I don't know if you're focusing on that or not, but he's probably pretty high on carb and choke cleaner. Carb and choke, not carbon choke. Anyhow, hi. You're at, oh, I don't know where he went. Hopefully he didn't fly in my mouth. Okay, anyway. And that was the baby dragonfly portion of today's episode. Yesterday's coffee. And we're back. Ha ha ha. Easily distracted. Butterfly. We may need to move you over here some, because I don't think I'm going to move the bike. I think we're going to move the camera. Watch out for dragonflies. He's my helper. I don't know how noisy this is, so it might get cut out, but here we go on a little journey across the garage. Doo-doo-doo. Blocking the door to the house, but that's okay. Meanwhile, sometime later. All right, and we're back. Still here, all that. Cheesy guy, dragonfly. Ha ha ha. Let us install the carburetors first. Alright, a couple camera adjustments. The cleaning of the glasses, a constant struggle. I should probably get a vacuum cleaner out and clean out that engine valley or whatever. I definitely don't want to do it with compressed air because then I would blow it all into the cylinder head, which would be not so smart. Just balled up paper towel. We're not blowing air thing actually, but I mean, just trying to protect that when I start knocking things around. Let me grab the small vacuum cleaner. There it is. You may have noticed earlier that I have a lot of things in my shop on wheels. The shop's 40 by 40, but with a huge high ceiling. But until I build a loft, it's pretty much shelves or the floor. But I like the idea of having as open of a workspace as I can have, or a play space, I should say. In that, although there are going to be areas that are kind of workstations and work generalized where things are, my plan is to have the floor remain as open as I can possibly get it. Just because it's always been the way I've wanted it in my head. So like I said, a lot of things are on wheels. Pretty much anything that I can get on wheels either is on wheels or will be on wheels, including the wood storage cart that I built and all that. Let's get the power. Alright, our noises. It also may prevent us from sucking dirt directly into the carburetors, since we don't have any air filters right now. I mean, I could hook up the air box, but oh well, for one thing I can't get the old air filter out. But anyway, it's dilapidated and full of dust and bug parts. Not like Volkswagen parts, insect parts. Alright, and now we're going to return the carburetors, to the proper home. And confirm, oh wow. Yep, uh-oh. Watch out for flying fuel. Flying fuel. I'm gonna go this way this time. Boop. You guys need some more light. Illuminate. Oh yeah, you like that a lot better, don't you? It's my Canadian Irishman, I think. Lad. Rastafari. I don't even know if it was this video or the last video, but I mentioned the two different slots that have to line up when you put the slides back in. So there are two slots or lines there and there that line up, just in case you care. The fatter one is the actual idle setting screw that goes, and this is kind of ramped. I don't know if you can see it, but depending on where that's sitting is how high this slide rides in there, which is what controls how fast the idle's going. Anything beyond a good snug fit is going to bend the clamps, strip screws, and stuff like that. It's pretty much not needed. So theoretically, you put your tank on, then you run your crossover tube under, and then you hook it onto the other side. might actually work. A pair of 90-degree bend small needle nose. And that little space that we've created, mind you, if you haven't done it before, needle noses will pinch the poop out of you. But I don't know if you saw what I was doing there. I'm kind of using that as a fulcrum. Simple machines, people. Lever. Keep it simple. Oops. Yeah. All right. Oh yeah, that's actually going to work. So let's. I'm going to make some more premix because I have no idea if this oiler system is working or not. And someone commented that I'm probably not going to be able to get it running right without the airbox on there. And I 100% agree, because I had AirPods on my RD and it was jetted differently and everything. But again, I'm not this this airbox and this filter that's in here are filthy. So I would be doing more damage by actually hooking that up. But what I want to see is, can we get fuel going from this tank into the carburetors and running that way without fuel pouring out all over the floor. I'm also going to take us over to the garage door and try not to fumigate my house. And y'all like looking at the old Eurovan and the old Yeller, right? If you don't know what a Eurovan is, stay tuned. Hey, you're a little bit more level now. You're not like leaned over and I'm falling over and stuff. I don't need to drink anymore. Okay. Little bit of electrical tape. Okay, now we shouldn't have issues with touching our power wire to the metal frame. That is right this second, because we're just suspending things in space. So this is the fuel that is in the carburetors that I put in them wherever you are. When I finished rebuilding them yesterday, when I took them apart, put them back together again, hopefully correctly, I poured fuel in them to see if the float was still sticking, and it did not seem to be. So theoretically, there is fuel in the bowls. My plan is to see if I can get it running off of that, run that out, then we'll put some pre-mixed fuel in here, because again, I don't know if the oiling system is working or not. And go from there. Okay. So, I do not have power. Oh. I wonder if the battery died. We're going to drop that door a little bit. Get more into that kind of situation. Taking bets, folks. I'm thinking 10 or less volts. 10 would have given me some sort of a light. 4 volts. 4 volts, folks. 4 volts, a motorcycle doth not start. Unfortunately, all I have is a minimum of a 6 amp charger. Can't figure out why the battery's dead already. No, it just sat and totally died. Charging it at 6 volts or 6 amps probably doesn't help. You know, I'll put it on the list of things to buy, a trickle charger. A motorcycle trickle charger. We're definitely not going to put 150 amps on it, which is possible with this. I'm just going to ground it over here somewhere. Connect that to there. And hope it doesn't explode. I don't know why everybody uses brake clean. It's not the correct thing at all. But may as well use it too, because everybody else does it, right? How to wash out your cylinders. Luckily, I don't have oil. I mean, my oil's mixed in already. I know what I mean. Try and choke it just to see what happens. Alright, well, we know it still fires. One cylinder anyway. I'm not sure why that other cylinder isn't firing, but it'll wake up. Let's just let that battery charge for a little while, and I'll mix up a little bit of fuel, and we'll be right back. Whoops, whoa, a little bit more just to make sure that there's entirely too much in there, because I'm not worried about the smoke. I'm much more worried about properly lubricating this engine as opposed to putting brake clean in it. Yeah. I'm just looking for a rag. I'm not just spinning around, walking around in circles. It's your imagination. Because that paint is so perfect, I'd hate to get some two-stroke oil on it. I'm going to dump the rest of this in there. Because, ooh, nice. Sparks around a fuel system. It's always good. Always good. You definitely want electrical sparks when you're playing with gasoline. I guess it's done charging. It didn't like the 6 amps. It said, "No más, por favor." Muy bien, gracias. Let's just see. Oh yeah. She's good to go. Yeah. Oh yeah, fully charged. 6 amps at 10 minutes. Brilliant. The old blood blister. Anyhow, let's pour some gas in here. I'm not trying to pour a bunch in. Oh yeah. We got blue juice in the crossover pipe. Quite a bit there. Plenty. Plenty. Plenty? Plenty? Alright, we're going to shut that. We're going to kind of stir it around a bit. Once again, kids, what's the worst that could happen? I'm going to try and stay out of your way. Admit ignition is off. Chargers are disconnected. Let's just see what happens when we turn the fuel to the reserve position. Okay, so I see what I did. I put that on upside down. That needs to be fixed real quick. And I'm not sure if a bunch of fuel is going to run out when I try to do this. So let's find out together. Fuel is definitely going to run out if I do that. But, can I still get fuel? Would be my next question. Dang, dang, dang. Dang, dang, dang. Da-dang, dang, dang. Da-dang, dang, 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 da-dang, dang, dang. Because I want to say there's fuel in there. Woo. Let's see what happens. This could be a terrible idea. But that's true about most things. Lights off. Lights on. Okay, I don't think I'm going to have enough juice. I'm going to have to hook that back up. Oh, plus I'm... Right, there we go. Yeah, I don't think there's enough battery juice. Whew. Alright, well, it's pretty warm today considering the last 2 weeks have been nice and cool. Again, I apologize if there's fan noise, but I'm always trying to get any fumes out. You know, I'm getting into fire occasionally, but I've got a couple small leaks where these crappy fuel hose clamps are not really doing what they need to be doing, and then that crossover tube, I didn't put anything to hold it, so I'm going to put these zip ties on it. After I drink some water. I'm just going to try to get that crossover tube to not weep. It's not pouring out, but it's dripping regularly. I'm going to look up real quick. I have the manual upstairs. See if I can figure out what the initial setup is on these carbs. I mean, I sort of, you know, all the way in, 1.5 out, whatever. I'd rather get the exact numbers. You know, the other thing that I need to think about with this spark seeming like it only works sometimes, all these connections are old, corroded, rusty. So I could just be not making a good connection in the ignition or anywhere else on a relay. I definitely have something with a slow leak somewhere. You know, I think that's just overflows. I'm pretty confident that these carbs are not at all set up correctly. But I did do some research and find the basic tune, startup tune. So that is mixture screw all the way in, lightly seated, as always with the carburetor. It was close. all the way in, lightly seated, and then out 1 3/4 turns. So that's 1. That would be 1.5. That would be 1 3/4. All right. And then we're going to do the same thing to the other side. Oh, that's right. They're both pointed this direction. Oh yeah, that one's like all the way out. What I'm just trying to do, like I said, is just get us an initial setup. What I'm going for is that idle screw. I'm just trying to get it at the very bottom where it's just making contact. I'm going to see what happens. Everybody seems to be alright there. We don't really want the light on because that's taking power. Something ain't right. Something ain't right. Woo. The battery ain't right. She's hot. Yeah. That should spark. I do not see a spark. We don't have a spark again. No spark there either. I have no spark. Okay. Zero spark. Why do I have no spark? Okay, like I said, I'm done. I'm stuck in a loop right now, and that's just going to piss me off. I don't like being stuck in a loop. Stuck in a loop. Stuck in a loop. Hey, you've got no spark. Hey, you've got no fuel. Hey, you've got no spark. Hey, you've got no fuel. Hey, your battery's about to explode. Okay. I think I'm going to sign off, and I might work on a introduction video to the channel. Why do I not have a spark? I sure hope this thing doesn't pour gas out of it all night. I had a motor scooter that used to do that. Thanks for playing, kids. Check, please.